Hello, welcome to the 10th episode of Rachel Pilcher Writing Workshops Facebook Live events. I am Rachel Pilcher, and I thank you for coming and joining us tonight. For those of you who are watching it on the replay, if you ever have any questions, feel free to make comments, questions, anything along with the videos. You can do this on Facebook, or as they are uploaded on YouTube, you are able to make comments or ask questions through that. So please feel free, if you have any questions, to definitely let me know and I will address them for you. Tonight's topic is, excuse me, tonight's topic is getting your work critiqued. And in getting your work critiqued, the main reason why you want to critique your work is that you want to have others read it before it's published. Or before you try to publish it. Excuse me, a little bit dry. But you'll want to be able to see if others can help you, if they find any structure, plot, or other issues that you may have with your writing. It could be even, simple punctuation issues. I know a lot of times whenever I'm working with my critique group, I'll find those editorial errors that most people will kind of overlook, but they're not always completely overlooked because if I'm finding them, other people are going to be looking out for them as well. It'll also encourage you to keep working on your craft. So as you are working with a critique group, they can tell you what you're doing right. They can help you, excuse me, they can help you with getting the basics that you need to get your work in the most top the most top performance that you can possibly do with your work. I'm going to get a drink of water real quick. Sorry, whenever I came back from my trip last time, I was a little sick and I still have my cough from it. So I'm hoping to get rid of that and not cough through the whole thing. But hi Sharon. As you can tell, I still have my cough. Evidently coughs last much longer than you think they do. So one of the things that you need to do whenever you are looking at critiquing is it will also make you, this is going back to why critique, it'll make you less vulnerable to rejection because you've already given your work the opportunity to have other eyes on it, so that any of those little errors that you could possibly have will be addressed before it goes to possibly a literary journal or a publisher that will look at it and go, you know, they have all these errors and yeah, it's kind of a good story, but do we want to work with it? And with literary journals, they don't really, excuse me, they don't really have time to go through and edit everybody's work line by line. They're hoping to get the best polished work. So in being part of a critique group, that will help you get your best polished work. So, where to find critique groups? There are many ways that you can find a critique group. If you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, in the North Texas area, there are critique groups in almost every city, big critique groups in every city that you can imagine. I know there's the DFW Writers Workshop. It's a huge, huge critique group. There are several in Dallas that are also very useful, and a lot of them are genre specific. So if you do poetry, if you do sci-fi, you can always find a critique group. So one of the things you might want to do is to just Google critique groups and also include the area in which you live, and hopefully something will pop up somewhere nearby. And in doing that, you know, all the groups work differently. So you may find a group that will let you get up and read a selection of your work, and then they'll critique it based on that. Some groups will have you submit ahead of time. My group, you submit a certain amount of pages ahead of time, and we read over them, and then whenever we get together, we discuss. And not just about you. It's also about the other, excuse me, it's about the other writers. So you have to not just get critique, you have to also provide critique. So, and anything that you say will help the writer. They prefer to have something more than just, well, I liked it, or I didn't like it, or I'm not used to reading this genre, so I don't know what to say. You can generally, if you really try, you can find something to say about the genre. If you're not into poetry, then try to figure out what the story is that's being told in the poem, and then go from there. You know, it takes a little work, but you know, you worked really hard on your writing, and the other writers worked hard on their writing, so it's sort of a give and take. So you don't want to, excuse me, you don't want to not give. You don't want to be the person in the group that's always taking, because that and a lot of times they have critique groups that are listed through there. Um, and sometimes it's broken down by genre for those types of critique groups. I know I looked just a couple of days ago as I was prepping my notes for this workshop, and I found that, you know, there was definitely a lot of sci-fi. If you write sci-fi or fantasy, you are in luck, because almost every area in, at least in the United States, has definite sci-fi fantasy groups that are specific for that. The critique group that I have is a general critique group, so we have sci-fi, fantasy, we have modern fiction, we have poetry, we have plays, we have lots of, excuse me, lots of literary short stories and novels that are in the process. So, so it varies, and that works really well. Bar. That would be a definitely an unusual thing, and I would suggest if you're meeting at a bar, at least everybody buy one drink. Don't drink a lot while you're critiquing, because by the last critique, it's probably not going to be too fair to them. Definitely have Uber on hand as well. But, excuse me, this is going to be the episode in which I cough throughout the whole thing. I have to have my air conditioner off because it's noisy and it gets a little warm in here. So I'm going to keep drinking a bit of water. Now, the next thing you can do is, if you don't find a critique group that you like, or you're not fitting, make sure that everybody is following the guidelines so that it runs smoothly. Since you're the one starting it, you're probably going to end up being the facilitator. So you'll have to decide length. You'll have to decide, some groups do 5 pages, like I said, and they read right then. Some will go up to 12, and they submit in advance through something like Dropbox or Google Docs or something like that, whatever works for you. We personally use Dropbox through my critique group because it's the easiest one, where you don't have to have a Gmail account. Not everybody has Gmail. So morning, and it's the second Saturday of every month. We call it the second Saturday critique group, but we have that set up in advance, and everybody knows if you miss it, then you don't really. No, I don't have a cough drop handy, Sharon. They're nowhere in this room. You think I would, but I'll be all right. I've got ice water, and I'll get there. But we submit early, and we get it all read, and then we get together, and we have a 2-hour meeting, and we spend the whole 2 hours discussing each other's work. We do talk a bit about how we are doing on our writing, how we, if we submitted to contests or publications, how that went. A lot of people are starting to, our group is starting to do really well. A decent sized group, you may want to start up as being a general critique group. And if you get bigger, then y'all can split up into the genres so that everybody has time to do what they need to do. So, so the rules on, you'll want to decide what type of rules you want to do for the critiquing as to how they're presented and such. So some groups encourage at least one positive comment before presenting any